Okay, we are quite literally living through a massive paradigm shift in metabolic medicine right now. In this explainer, we are unpacking the staggering data behind the next generation of obesity drugs, the incredibly powerful regenerative peptides being used to combat their side effects, and the looming FDA reclassifications that could honestly change everything. Let's dive right in.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the weight loss revolution, move into Retatrutide and the triple agonists, tackle the side effect challenge, explore peptides for repair and growth, and finally, look at the 2026 FDA reclassification. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the weight loss revolution, and those wild Surmount 5 trial results.
For a long time, semaglutide was kind of the undisputed king of weight loss, right? Well, the Phase 3b Surmount 5 trial totally rewrote that hierarchy. Pitting the maximum tolerated doses head-to-head, tirzepatide drove a massive 20.2% weight reduction over 72 weeks. It just completely left semaglutide behind at 13.7%. Patients on tirzepatide were hitting these massive milestones, literally shedding a quarter of their total body weight. And to put that into real-world perspective, outside of just the number on a scale, we're talking about a staggering 18.4 centimeter reduction in waist circumference. That is a massive drop in visceral fat, the really dangerous stuff that wraps around your internal organs, especially when compared to just 13 centimeters for semaglutide. And it's really not just cosmetic. As Dr. Craig Conover points out, losing this much literal physical burden creates a profound aha moment for people. It completely shifts a patient's vitality and brain health. It acts like a catalyst, sparking this renewed obsession with resistance training, healthier eating, and honestly, just waking up excited to live again.
Which brings us to Section 2, Retatrutide, the triple agonist and the true next generation of these obesity drugs. Because the science definitely isn't stopping with tirzepatide. This is where the mechanisms really evolve. For instance, you've got Novo Nordisk's dual-action drug CagriSema delivering an absolutely incredible 22.7% body weight reduction. But then, Eli Lilly's Retatrutide takes it a step further as a true triple agonist. It simultaneously activates three entirely distinct metabolic pathways: GIP, GLP-1, and glucagon. This synergistic, three-pronged approach is designed to literally force an unprecedented response from human metabolism.
And wow, the trial data is staggering. Blowing right past CagriSema's already amazing numbers, patients in the Phase 3 Triumph-4 trial on a 12 milligram dose of retatrutide lost a jaw-dropping average of 28.7% of their body weight at 68 weeks. I mean, that's an average loss of over 71 pounds. Plus, it drove a 75.8% reduction in osteoarthritis knee pain, with more than 1 in 8 patients becoming totally pain-free. But of course, there's a catch. Let's move to Section 3, the side effect challenge, and really navigating the true cost of rapid weight loss. Because you simply cannot manipulate the body's metabolic pathways to this extreme degree without getting some intense biological pushback. We really have to take a step back and ask, at what cost does this unprecedented weight loss come? The goal shouldn't just be to get smaller. It needs to be about getting healthier and functionally stronger. Now, we fully expect the traditional stomach issues. Nausea hit about 43% of the retatrutide patients on the highest dose. But here is an incredibly rare problem you almost never see in clinical trials. Some patients actually quit because the drug worked too well. The weight loss was so rapid and so aggressive that patients with a lower starting BMI basically said, okay, this is too much, and had to pull the plug. Then, a brand new safety signal emerged that caught everyone's attention: dysesthesia. This affected nearly 21% of patients on the highest dose. It's a neurological condition where normal everyday touch suddenly feels uncomfortable or even painful. Now, Lilly notes these events were mild, but a distinct neurological signal like this has the entire industry watching very closely. And beyond those clinical side effects, practitioners are sounding a massive alarm that these heavy dosages are stripping away vital muscle mass right alongside the fat. This creates a severe physical deficit, sometimes leaving patients with that frail, skeletal appearance people are calling Ozempic face. Sure, they're smaller, but they're vastly weaker. And that is exactly why the medical protocol is starting to shift. So, how do we fix that? Enter Section 4, Peptides for Repair and Growth, and how we mitigate that muscle loss and inflammation. This is where guys like Dr. Andrew Huberman come in, breaking down how cutting-edge doctors are using growth hormone secretagogues to offset the muscle loss. You have your type 1 peptides like sermorelin, which mimic your natural growth hormone-releasing hormone. They give you really stable muscle support and even some nice deep sleep benefits. Then you have type 2 peptides like ipamorelin. These actually mimic the hunger hormone ghrelin to trigger a massive release of growth hormone. But you have to be careful with these because they can totally spike your appetite and your cortisol levels.
Now, what makes peptides so incredibly fascinating is their pleiotropic effects. It's just a fancy way of saying a single compound is a biological multitasker. Depending on what your body needs at that exact moment, one peptide can simultaneously reduce inflammation, signal your cells to migrate toward an injury, or even stimulate the growth of brand new blood vessels. And the absolute rock star of this space is BPC-157. This was actually originally discovered in human stomach acid. Researchers basically realized, hey, if this stuff can protect the gut from corrosive acid, it could probably protect almost anything. And in animal studies, it is a profound healing agent. It essentially acts like a master switch, like a 4-star general screaming "mobilize" to your body's repair crew, fixing up the gut, ligaments, and tendons. Think of BPC-157 and TB500 like two entirely different construction crews working on your body. BPC-157 primarily drives angiogenesis, literally building brand new blood vessels to rush nutrients into injured dead zones. Meanwhile, TB500 takes a totally different route. It proliferates stem cells to rebuild the actual physical scaffolding of your tissue. So if you want to safely navigate this massive weight loss, experts are suggesting a pretty strict protocol. First, you microdose the obesity drugs to keep your weight loss steady. Think under 2 pounds a week. Second, you utilize compounded peptides like sermorelin to protect your lean mass. And third, you absolutely must prioritize heavy resistance training and keep your protein intake high. But there's a storm brewing. This brings us to Section 5, the 2026 FDA Reclassification, and the absolute battle for compounding access. See, the ability to seamlessly pair these powerful weight loss drugs with those restorative peptides is about to hit a massive, maybe even insurmountable regulatory hurdle. The FDA categorizes these raw substances. Category 1 peptides can be safely and legally made by verified compounding pharmacies, but right now, incredibly popular healing peptides are being restricted and pushed into Category 2. This legally prevents legitimate pharmacies from making them, which unfortunately pushes desperate patients straight into the highly dangerous black market of unregulated research chemicals. Now, the FDA's rationale here is completely rooted in safety, and they have a point. They're pointing to a terrifying 2023 analysis which found that over 40% of peptide products sold through these shady online vendors contained wildly inaccurate dosing, toxic contamination, or completely degraded compounds. The agency basically wants to force all of this through rigorous clinical trials, rather than leaving it to compounding pharmacies. So here is the timeline you absolutely need to have on your radar. In 2026 and 2027, the Pharmacy Compounding Advisory Committee is holding some highly anticipated public hearings. These hearings will literally determine the final legal fate of game-changing compounds like BPC-157 and TB500. Whatever they recommend is going to shape the entire future of anti-aging and regenerative medicine for decades.
We're going to leave you with this final thought for the explainer. As pharmaceutical science hands us the keys to erase nearly a third of our body weight with these massive triple agonists like Retatrutide, how is the regulatory landscape going to evolve? Will the FDA ensure we can still safely access the peptide tools we desperately need to rebuild the muscle and connective tissue left behind? It's a massive biological balancing act, and the rules are literally being written right now.